Hi again, everyone. This video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here is her story. Dear Ollie, I learned about your YouTube channel a few weeks ago. I have since been slightly obsessed with it. It is eye-opening to realize how many narcs are really out there. It is great to hear advice about how to handle the narcs in my life. I am 35. I am the middle of three girls. My older sister was the scapegoat growing up. I was always brainwashed to believe she was bad and that she would try to influence me to be bad just like her. If I ever made a mistake growing up, my parents would always say, "You're going to end up just like your sister." And what a horror, or what a horrific thing to become. Sarcasm. Growing up, I was not close with my older sister. She was 5 years older than me and was actually pretty mean to me. She has since acknowledged that and apologized. I was never angry at her about it since I figure it all stemmed from my parents' dysfunctional parenting. My older sister and I are very close now. I do not have contact with my younger sister. I believe she may be a narc, but I cannot say absolute sure since I have had such little contact with her the past 10 plus years. We have not spoken or communicated in 2 years now. She unfriended me on Facebook a couple of years ago and blocked me. I had no idea why, but she had done this so many times, I just stopped caring. Oh, the frienders and the unfrienders on Facebook. Look, you got to be careful of the social media, unfriending, friending, blocking. You know what? If you are a grown ass adult and you got people unfriending you and refriend, that's what 12, 13, 14-year olds do. Okay, that is a huge friggin' red flag. You can't handle a disagreement. You can't, move on. That is a huge red flag. The constant blocking, friending, unfriending of social media. I never asked her why because I knew she would say, "You know why." I don't know why. I have no time for her ridiculous antics. She is very dramatic, always a victim, extremely argumentative, and was never able to maintain relationships that I can recall. She is married now, and he does seem somewhat normal. He is quite effeminate, and she told our older sister that he did not like to have vaginal intercourse, so she had to get pregnant using a turkey baster. Way more than we and you needed to know. But if it is true, then it is very telling. Yeah, he's gay. Yeah, it's telling that he's gay. Our childhood was always filled with tension. The happiness of the entire family was completely dependent on the mood of my mother. If she was happy, it was rare. It was like the clouds parting and the sun coming out. When she decided that she didn't think we deserved to be happy, the storm cloud returned. It was like putting a huge, heavy winter coat on all day. My older sister was made to look like a boy when she was younger. When looking at pictures of her and and I as kids, people say, "I didn't know you had an older brother." My sister told me, wait, is this the younger sister or the older sister? I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, my older sister was made to look like a boy when she was younger. When looking at pictures of her and I as kids, people would say, "I didn't know you had an older brother." My sister told me my mother always made her cut her hair short like a boy. It used to make her cry when her hair was cut. I was definitely I was definitely treated like a little girl. My mom did my hair up very roughly and abusively, might I add, in pigtails, braids, buns, etc. I was thought as pretty, and I knew it made my mom feel good that I was pretty. So I grew up feeling like appearance is very important. I struggle with feeling good about how I look as an adult. My little sister was super frail, long blonde curls, blue eyes. She looked like an angel. She was spoiled beyond belief. I'm not talking about being given toys, but instead she was given so much power and control. If we went to a restaurant, it was a big deal. We rarely went out to eat. When we did, it always ended up being some being miserable because my little sister would just flip a switch even at the age of 4. She would turn sullen, say she didn't like the food. My parents would totally freak out and overreact. We usually ended up either leaving the restaurant and getting smacked in the car, or we would stay and it would be awful. My parents were very condescending to wait staff growing up. once we went to the Friendlies in our town. We had been a few times before. We walked in and my mom overheard one of the waitresses say, "I don't want to wait on them. They're mean people." We turned and left. My mom acted exasperated that someone could actually think of her as mean. Zero accountability ever. We went back. We never went back again. See, and that's what happens. You see that? You see what happens right there. A Friendlies waitress. Now you think about this. You think about all the bullshit you had to put up with your narcissistic abusers. Now they're terminators and they keep coming and keep coming and they keep coming at you because you don't matter. Remember, we don't matter. It's the opinions of others who matter. A Friendlies waitress got her to turn and leave and never come back. Think about that. Think about that. Think about how abusive your mother is, how evil and conniving and manipulative she is. Yet a Friendlies waitress saying she didn't want to wait on them because they're mean got her to run away forever. And you think you mattered? Any of you? You think I mattered? And no, this is what matters to them. That's what hurt her. Neither of my parents had any tolerance for any negative feelings from any of us. The best we could do for ourselves would have just been to shut up and listen. I was good at that. I was ignored a lot because I did not make waves. My older sister argued. She fought back. She had a different dad and she moved out at 17 and lived with him. Her dad was this huge secret that was never talked about growing up. My little sister fought. But in a different way than my older sister. She was like she wanted to beat she it was like she wanted to beat my mom at her own game. It seemed like a battle over who hated themselves more, my mom or my little sister. And that is very telling. Okay, because it seems like your mom's abuse towards your older sister, like you're now revealed, didn't have the same father as you and your younger sister makes a whole lot of sense. Because I think she probably just wanted to keep your older sister in her life and around to fuck over her father. Because that's what women do. That's what women like this do. Okay? And she really didn't want your older sister around. That's why she butchered her hair and made her feel like shit. The younger one, you and the younger one were different. Now, the younger one, because now you obviously were born before your younger sister, so you had some interactions with your older sister beforehand where you were able to set up a dynamic that your mother and father actually saw. And the youngest one is always the most spoiled little fucking brat in these larger, more than two narcissistic families because they use the younger one as the ultimate supply to gaslight the other two. The problem with doing that is, like Precious, my brother, they get a godlike complex at a very, very young age. Okay, because they are made to feel that they are superior to you and your older sister. So that's their mindset as a child. And she already bonded with your mother and saw your mother's game as a child and knew how to mimic it and almost knew how to use it against your mother. She's a better narcissist than your mother is, believe it or not. My father had anger issues. If he was walking out the door and the cat got underfoot, he would kick it and say, with seething anger, if it didn't get out of the way, he would put an axe between its eyes. It obviously made me sick inside. He had no patience whatsoever. I got heat stroke once and fell to the ground and could not get up. I think I was around 6. I remember him screaming at me, "Get up, get up." I physically couldn't. He was so angry. I woke up alone in my parents' bed with a pile of vomit beside me. I think I remember my mother checking on me one time, but she wasn't affectionate, nor did she seem concerned. She was just going through the motions. And I'll explain to you what that is with your father. That is the anxiety of anything. That is the only release your father had to dealing with how your mother's mood dictated the mood of everyone around it. Everything that happened with your father had this pent up rage and anger. So anything other than your mother causing any type of inconvenience is going to spark an outburst. Because he probably doesn't fight back with her. So he has to take his rage out on his children, on pets, on inanimate objects, on anything else that goes wrong, because he's so wound, so tight because of your mother. That's about the fill of what he can take. So whenever something else goes wrong, it's the breaking point with him. It's the levees being flooded over. He's constantly at max being around your mother. Any type of diversion, anything that is just going to flood everything. Whenever my mother was upset, my dad made it his mission in life to grovel and make her feel better. There you go. How much of that can somebody take? You only got so much. So anything else is going to flip him out. He acted like he was her emotional slave. He would kiss the ground she walked on, and she would step on him. Their fighting was terrible to listen to, so he would fight back. He had a drinking problem, and she was a chronic nag, so he would get mad, and she would get even. One Halloween, my mom dressed up as a groom and my dad as a bride. I was in elementary school. They went to a Halloween party. My mom had seemed in such a good mood, and I probably felt elated inside because of that. I remember waking up out of a sleep because she came home earlier than anticipated from the party without my dad. I could see the hallway from my top bunk. I saw she was upset. He arrived shortly after, and they had a huge fight in the middle of the night. I shared a bedroom with my little sister. My parents' room was right in between our room and my older sister's. We could hear everything, and they just screamed as though they were alone in the house. All I could put together was that my mom had gotten upset with my dad at the party, and she left him there. I guess maybe he was having too good a time. Probably. He was probably so happy she'd been in a good mood and actually had a good time, then flipped the switch and decided that she needed to make him miserable again. So she left. You know what? Yeah. And you know what? Who was good at doing that type of shit? My ex-wife. Oh boy, did she love to ruin a party. Oh, did she love to ruin a night out with friends with her sour mood and her puss. It's just what she used to do. Can't have too much fun. That's why my other buddy used to call her the fun sink. Pop the drain and watch the fun just go down. At one point during the fight, my dad went downstairs to the basement and got one of his hunting rifles or shotguns. I'm not sure which. Wow, that's a Virginia tactic. She used to love pulling shotguns. And remember, Drunky pulled a shotgun on my father as well. Same gun, mind you, had to go to Virginia's house to go get the fucking thing. He was in a tearful rage. He brought it into their room and told her he was going to kill her. It went silent. I heard her tell him he would go to jail, and he screeched, "I don't care." He had this horrible high-pitched screech that he used when he was being emotional. Then it was quiet again. I was frozen with fear. Then he burst out crying and screeched, "I can't do it." I don't remember what happened after that. I feel like if he had shot her, he would have lost his mind and killed all three of us before killing himself, probably. The day after that fight, I remember my mom being all mopey and my dad just crying nonstop, following her around like a puppy dog. Then she got into the shower, and he got in with her. Of course, I was old enough to figure out they were showering together because they both exited the bathroom with wet hair. Everything seemed fine. We saw no repair other than his emotional groveling and her giving the silent treatment. No one ever talked to us about it. Many times I had nightmares of my dad ripping my mom to pieces or murdering her in various ways. He did get physical with her from time to time. He was volatile, especially when drinking. He once threw a shoe through the window, kicked holes in walls, threw a baked potato at the wall, and stomped a sandwich into the carpet. Basically, a gigantic, scary child. Couldn't have been that scary to her, though, could he have? because she would keep pushing his buttons, which tells me that this isn't real. Like, it was real that it happened, don't get me wrong. But this is all some kind of weird performance. And I've had a couple stories like this where, and again, it's telling, he's crying, she's moping, and then what happens? They go into the shower together. Huh. Sounds like another case of sick foreplay to me. One time while she was abusively doing my hair, my dad came into the bathroom. She randomly asked me, "Who do you love more, me or dad?" My dad kind of looked at her like she was crazy, but she just laughed at him. She demanded I answer, so in my 6-year-old head, I decided it would be easier to deal with my dad being hurt. Wait a minute. To deal with my dad being hurt than it would be to deal with my mom getting upset. So I said I love my mom more. She looked triumphant. My dad then went into their bedroom and laid in bed crying. My mother then turned on me and told me I needed to go apologize for hurting his feelings. Totally fucked up. Go apologize to your dad for what I made you do to him. I once asked my mother if she loved me, and her answer was sometimes. And she had a kind of far off expression when she answered. I was no more than 10 when I asked her that. Every birthday was shitty in our house. If it was someone else's birthday, she would find a way to ruin it. She couldn't handle people being happy for someone other than her. And if it was her birthday, then somehow it just wasn't good enough. So her birthdays were shitty too, and Father's Day and Mother's Day. Once on my dad's birthday, she served dinner and announced that they would be getting a divorce on his birthday. Of course, he just burst into tears over it. Oh, Lordy. I realize how she hurt his feelings, but I can count on one hand the amount of time she actually tried to stop her. He actually tried to stop her from being a narc bitch to us. His attempts were always weak, and I see him as the enabler. They will be together until death, I am sure of it. He cried so much while I was growing up that I have a hard time appreciating a man who can cry. We lived with a man, my dad, who cried at the drop of the hat, and it was not a sign of strength in his case. My dad is a coward. When I was in college, my dad felt it necessary to tell me, your mother only likes you because you do well in school. I have no idea why he felt the need to tell me that, but now I believe it to be true. Maybe he sees her for who she really is, but denies it. When I went to college, the fact that someone paid for some of it was held over my head. I was always reminded how I was not grateful enough. We were always referred to as ingrates. If we were nice to ourselves, she would say, "Pretty good to yourself." The first time I talked to a therapist was my sophomore year in college. I told her some of the stuff about my mother, and she pointed out that it seemed like I was the parent and my mother was the child. I was trying to take care of my mother's feelings. I was allowed to be in my mother's life for many years and slowly realized how sick she is. My older sister and I eventually connected, and I began to see things more clearly. She confronted my mother in her early 30s and told me about the process she went through while doing that. I began to see my older sister wasn't the problem. It was my mother. I met my first husband in 2004. We met in 2007. When my parents first met him, my mother came to me after and immediately told me she didn't think it would work out with him because I was just too selfish. I was living with my aunt in Virginia at the time after graduating college. I had very little money and very little knowledge of how to live a life. No one taught me how to take care of my environment or how to have relationships. Looking back, I probably did not pay my aunt enough for having stayed with her. But on more than one occasion, I would ask how much money she wanted, and her answer would be something cryptic like, "Yeah." I asked a friend what would be fair market value would be. I was 23 and from rural Vermont. I had no idea what that even meant, so I took it as she did not want anything. And since she never elaborated, I let it go. I think my mother sensed I was in conflict with my aunt over this time, and that is why she made the comment about me being selfish. Anyway, we got married in 2007. When I told my mother we were engaged, the first thing she said is, "Well, don't expect us to pay for it. How I ignored that is beyond me. We had a son in 2009, and my husband battled melanoma. My husband had battled melanoma since 1998, and during my pregnancy, he had a reoccurrence. In the past surgeries had helped and gotten rid of it for a few years, but this time they wanted to try an experimental treatment. It did not work. As you can imagine, going through this is hard enough if you have a normal family, but the lack of support from my family made it so much harder. By the time our son was 4 months old, he had spots of cancer in his liver and other organs. He tried chemo and then other trial treatment. Neither worked, and the disease had been in his body for so long that it was able to gain strength. We had scheduled the trip to my parents in spring of 2010. Just a couple of months after we learned his disease had advanced, we ended up having the trip alongside one of his weeks of chemo. It was in pill form. I told him we could reschedule the trip, but for whatever reason, he was adamant to go. Perhaps he thought rescheduling the trip would be like admitting something was really wrong with his health. He was throwing up some during this time. While we stayed at my parents', he was basically in bed the entire time. My mother was an awful bitch the entire time we were there. I was feeding my 7-month-old prunes, and both my parents were sitting at the table just watching me in creepy silence. At one point, I spilled some prunes, and they both just got on me about it. Like, oh, look at that. You can't feed him without making a mess. It was as if they needed to see me mess up or something. They wanted to go on a walk in the neighborhood. I went to see if my husband felt like going. He did not. I applied sunscreen to my 7-month-old since we were in Texas, and hello, his dad was suffering from melanoma. My mother harped on me, hurry up, we're waiting. So obviously she's waiting to show off your child to someone. This is obviously just another ploy for supply. God, you're so slow. It literally took me 5 minutes to apply sunscreen. I went downstairs ready to go, and my dad had just grown so impatient waiting for 5 minutes that he decided to mow the lawn instead. During the walk, my mother proceeded to make several remarks. She said she thought I should see a grief counselor. She also said if anything happened to my husband, she wanted us to come live with them over my dead body. None of these remarks were meant to be helpful. It was all just to mess with my fear of my husband dying. She did not care. She also came to me during the trip and said, your dad is disappointed because he had planned on taking husband out on the boat to go fishing. But since he doesn't feel well, he can't go. He didn't want me to mention it to you, but I'm going to do it anyway. Obviously, she wanted to make me or my husband feel bad for him having cancer and deprive my poor father of his stupid fishing trip. I told my dad about it, and he seemed pissed, my mother told me. During the trip, my mother also wanted to go to Costco. They were not members, but we were, so they would check it out with us. For whatever reason, my husband decided to go. He threw up on the drive to the store. My mother wanted to stop at her place of work to show off her grandson. I knew that was coming up. My husband got out of the car to throw up at that point. My dad looked concerned and asked if he needed to go home, and my mother said he would be fine, and we were going. She drove like a maniac the whole way there. We were there for literally 20 minutes, and the assholes did not buy one item. She drove like a maniac the whole way home as well, with my sick husband and 7-month-old in the back with me. After we finally got back to our home, his health started to deteriorate even more. He died early September, 4 days after our son turned 1. It was the worst thing I've ever been through. By then, I knew how messed up my mother was. So I was not looking for her support, but of course she made sure to get there as soon as possible. She had her sisters come too. Her side of the family is freakishly religious. I was not close with any of them, but they basically hijacked his memorial. They were all crying hysterically and they never even met him. My late husband's parents were more supportive to me than my own parents. We had breakfast the morning after the memorial for the people who traveled for it. My mother totally ignored me. She spent all her attention on her sisters. I left so I could get my son down to nap. My dead husband's mother came and helped me load up the stroller and get on the elevator. As soon as the elevator door shut, she turned and looked at me and said, "This is what a mother does." It was a relief to know that she saw my mother was crazy. Trying to convince my first husband that my mother was nuts was difficult because he had no experience with people like her. His family was actually fairly normal. I think he began to see it when he was dying because my mother was so awful to us. When he was sick, my mother said to me, "If he dies, who's going to make me laugh?" As if him dying would be a bigger loss to her than to me or my son or my husband himself. It was all about her. The evening after the memorial, I got a call from my uncle. My parents were staying with my aunt, the one I had lived with previously, my dad's sister, and an uncle 2 miles away. He asked what my late husband's favorite mascot was. I said, "Why are you asking?" He said he was trying to log on to his Ameritrade account. He was logging into all our financial accounts. I flipped out. Apparently, my mother was standing there behind him while he did it, writing down all the information she saw on the screen. I quickly logged into the accounts, and they had been in our bank account, credit card account, etc. I have no idea why they thought they were helping, supposedly. I know my mother just wanted to know the information. I have no idea what my uncle's agenda was. He claimed he was just trying to help, but I think he may just be a narc too, because there's money to be had. That's why. That's what they do. Jesus Christ. This is awful. The vultures. The narcissistic vultures circle at the worst possible times of your life. No humility, no remorse, no shame. This is what they do. This is what they do. Holy God. And you know why it makes me mad, if you know, like, the next morning I went to my aunt's house. My parents were still staying there, but I received an email from my mother the night she was caught hacking with my uncle that they were going to fly home the next day instead of staying another week. I didn't want her around anyway, but what an awful mother she is. Her daughter's husband dies and she gets a week off to help her and then gets mad. She gets caught snooping into the financial info. So she decides she's going to leave early to deprive me of her help. I was relieved they left. She never came out while I was there except to walk out the front door. She hid in the basement. Then when she sensed we were all in established conversation, she came out of hiding and immediately left after calling my dad like a dog. "Come on, let's go." He said, "Where are we going?" She snapped, "Out." Not to mention they were borrowing my car. Oh my God, why did... So she leaves to avoid me in my car. My older sister was still there, but was flying out the next day. She tried to say bye to Mom as she walked out of the door. Our mother ignored her, LOL. 2 weeks after my husband died, I was all alone. We did not speak again for quite some time. She blocked me on Facebook at that time as well. My husband died in September, and I think it was June that I saw her again. She came to my house. Things seemed to go okay for a few days, but she started acting weird again. We went to Friendly's, LOL, great childhood memories there, and she was teaching my 1-year-old son to punch. I asked her to stop. She said he is a boy, he needs to learn to hit. She kept doing it, so I said, "Mom, I asked you to stop. He is my son, and I get to decide whether I want him to learn to hit or not." She got pissed off and said, All you have done this entire trip is criticize me. I'm sick of it." She got up and left the restaurant. We had one more day together, and she literally sat in my dead husband's recliner with a towel or some kind of cloth thing over her face, or she just appeared to be asleep. It felt super tense because I had nowhere to go to get away from her. I should have kicked her out, clearly. Obviously, I was at a low point in my life, having lost my husband less than a year prior. I moved that July to be closer to my late husband's family. I have never regretted the move. I was beginning to find my own inner compass. I had never been in touch with my own compass before because I had never been allowed to have feelings my entire life. It was all the beginning of self-discovery. This should not happen in toddler childhood, not in your 30s. Oh, this should happen in toddler childhood, not in your 30s. Things were not perfect with his family, but there is unconditional love. My son has normal grandparents because of them. I'm able to see an example of what a loving grandparent is supposed to be like. I could get annoyed at them, and it isn't the end of the relationship. They've gotten annoyed at me, and it didn't end the relationship. I grew up believing that it means something bad, that it means something bad if you get angry or annoyed. I did not know it's just normal to feel that way in all relationships from time to time. When I moved down here, my father came to help. He was acting like a jerk towards my father-in-law. He didn't like him, didn't want him around, and acted like my father-in-law was being condescending towards him. When my father-in-law said he would help my dad install the microwave, my dad barked at me, "I'm not stupid." Being stupid is a preoccupation of both my parents. It is like they're so afraid they are truly stupid that they have to constantly remind everyone they're not stupid. After that, I just didn't even want my father around anymore either. My mother was trying to worm her way back into my life as well. She emailed me after he returned home and claimed she had sent him to the chiropractor because he had worked him so hard. He always asked for lists of stuff that I needed done. I emailed her back and confronted her about some of the stuff, and she came back saying how I should be ashamed, etc. So I guess I let that slide as well. Every time she did stuff like this, I would talk to my therapist. But I just felt so much fear and anxiety around the idea of confronting her. I literally believed something horrible would happen if I broke contact with her. To rewind just a little, I met my current husband not long after moving here in North Carolina. We had been engaged for 4 years, and it basically feels like we are married. So I just refer to him as my husband. I also got pregnant rather quickly, surprise. And we have a 4-year-old daughter. He is a wonderful dad to both children. My son thinks of him as daddy. Of course, he knows about his late dad, and we talk about him often. We are a blended family, and I think we are doing fairly well. My late husband's parents like him. He has been accepted by them. My parents never really took to him, though that is probably because they could sense he smelled their bullshit a mile away. On a side note, after my first husband died, my mother would send these weird notes to his mother. In one of them, my mother attempted to smear me. I cannot recall exactly what she wrote about me, but it was negative. In the same letter, she had the nerve to ask his mother if he, late husband, her son, had been saved because she wanted to know if she would see him in heaven. My mother thinks she's going to heaven, hysterical. I don't believe it myself, but if it is real, there is no way she is narking her way through that gate. Can you imagine writing a letter to the parents of your of your daughter's dead husband, asking if he made it to heaven? Back to my current husband. It turns out our childhoods were similar. His mother is also a narc. I think he knew right away, but I didn't know I knew. But didn't know I knew. Right now, she is very angry at us because we have been calling her on her BS, and she doesn't like it. It turns out she's just like my mom. She can say or do whatever she wants, but no one else is allowed to. Her younger sister is the scapegoat, and I was always told how mean and ruthless she is to their mother. His younger brother just acts indifferent and refuses to take sides, even when his mom insults his own wife. so his marriage is not going well. My husband seems open to changing his relationship with her, and he has very respectfully confronted her on some things she has done. She spews venom at she spews venom at him in return. It sucks going through this again, and I wish I could convince him to cut her off, but I know he has to figure that out himself. Eventually, I think that is what will happen because there really is no alternative. You can't have a relationship because there is no reciprocity or mutual respect. They want they want what they want and when they want it, and if you don't give and if you don't happily give it to them, they punish you. It's sick and twisted. So overall, I have a lot of experience with NARS, way more than I'd like. I have been no contact from my parents over a year. I don't miss them. I have no desire to see them ever again. I've gotten a happy birthday email and a couple of texts from my dad saying happy birthday to the kids. I responded with a thank you, but it ends there. Another strange thing my mother did was make sexual advances towards my current husband. She would do it jokingly, but it was really weird. Do narcs have issues surrounding things of sexual surrounding things of sexual nature, and are they prone to make sexual jokes that most people find offensive? Do narcs have a tendency for getting in trouble for sexual harassment? Yeah. Yeah, they do. Look, my grandmother, both grandparents on both sides of the family, like, it's all it was is overt sex, overt sex, overt sex. My mother is constantly with overt sexuality, constantly. So yeah, it's something narcs do. Right now, my 7-year-old is asking to see my parents. I explained to him I do not have a relationship with them. He keeps asking, and I told him she has a personality disorder and tried to tell him what that means. I know he's only 7 and does not fully understand, but there's part of me that fears he blames me for their absence, and he will grow up thinking they were nice and that I was mean to shun them. I believe it is unhealthy to allow them to be around my children, but at the same time, I can see why my son is interested in knowing them. I empathize, but there is no way he can fully understand until he is older. Do you have any advice how I can explain this to him? That's a tough one. Trying to explain it to a 7-year-old who wants to see them. You just have to stick to your guns and say, look, I know you don't understand this right now. I know you don't understand this right now, and you're young, but they're not good people. They're not good people. It's probably a good opportunity to have a conversation with them about bad people. Just like your child, okay? Just like you tell your child never take candy from a stranger. Because when bad people do things to children, and this is how I would wrap this up. Damn. Same way you would with a kidnapper or a child. They always try to get you with candy, and they're nice, and they're going to be your friend, and that's all your parents are. It's the same thing. Once they get them alone, they're going to do damage to them. Damage that will stay with them for the rest of their life. That's how I would explain it to them. This is no different than a kidnapper or somebody who likes to hurt children, because they usually just don't grab them. Lure them in. Lure them in. Same mentality. You might have a hard time understanding that, but it's for his own good. As a mother, you need to keep him away. Especially if somebody who's trying to teach him to hit at 1 year old. The last time they were here, they did something very hurtful to my son. The day they left, he began saying, "Mommy doesn't love me." It struck me as very odd, because he had never said anything like that in his life. And it felt strange to me that it was happening while they were visiting. Why would it feel strange? It's obvious why. See, you know what your problem is? You are so blinded by their bullshit. You give them the benefit of the doubt. Of course. Mommy, what was your mother doing to you as a child? Who do you love more? You don't love me. He was crying. Of course they're going to do the same tactics to your child. It's what it is. It's the same thing. It's not a coincidence. It shouldn't strike you as odd. It should strike you with rage, you fucking bitch. You're going to do this to my child now after everything you've done? Come on. Strike you with rage. Don't strike you odd. He literally began saying it like 15 minutes before they departed. My mother whispered to me, if he starts locking himself in closets, I would take him to a therapist. Because she told him to fucking do that. Oh my God. Come to find out, my father had told my son, your mother doesn't love you one bit. It happened early morning before we were awake. My son is in early riser, and so are my parents. Such a huge mistake on my part for allowing them to be alone with him. Just like a child molester, huh? It's the same tactic. It's the same tactic as child molester. This is why I'm glad you asked me that question, huh? I'm glad I had that advice for you before I even said it. They use the same tactics as a child molester. And I would really question if what really went on in your house when you were children with you and your sisters and your parents, if there's some kind of history there, because it sure as hell sounds like it. He repeated that mommy doesn't love me statement for about a year and a half. It was saddening, but it was also very difficult to deal with. And I would use that. Do you remember when they told you that mommy didn't love you? That's them hurting you. That's what you need to hang on. Remember when your grandfather told you I didn't love you, and he didn't even have the courage to say it when I was there? Why do you think he told you alone? And you say this nicely, not how I'm saying it. Because he knew I would fight it. And if he really thought I didn't love you, then why wouldn't he have taken you with him? So he's just going to leave you in a house that nobody loves you in? Does that make any sense? No. I'm ashamed to say I never bothered to confront them. I knew they would deny it. Of course they would. Lesson learned, though. My children will never be alone in either of them ever again. My children will never be alone with either of them ever again. They should never be with them ever again. Fuck alone. None of you should be around them ever again. So that is some of my story. It is very long. I have more to share with my current husband's mother, but just writing this out has been taxing enough. In some ways, it's good to relive it. It helps remind me why I don't want them in my life, especially when the holiday season arrives and you start thinking about family. Hope to become better at spotting NARS so I can prevent them from being in my life. I feel 100% done with the idea of dealing with these people. I don't even think they're human. I feel like they are empty shells that need constant filling. Thanks for working so hard to expose these NARCs. What you do is definitely appreciated by many. Warmly, NARC exposer and loving it. Anonymous. Well, your parents used the same tactics as child molesters. I mean, it's a long story. They're the worst type of narcissist there is. They're the worst type of narcissist there is. I mean, there's just so much in this story, it just speaks for itself. It really does. The overriding thing I want to get across is because what's most important right now is your family, your husband, and the two other narcissists you're dealing with. You can control whether or not your parents come into your life. You control that key. So that should be Never again. You should be at the point, never again. Block all their shit. It ain't worth it. As far as he goes, he's going to have to learn that his mother is not going to change. And it will only be a matter of time before she's doing to her grandchildren what your mother's doing as well. Slowly but surely, he's going to have to come to that realization and put on his big boy pants, and it's time to cut the string. Because you are way too susceptible, I think both of you are, to falling back into these patterns. So you need to be vigilant. You need to be strong, and don't be surprised at anything. Of course, they were going to tell your son. Of course, they were. That's just what they do. You need to explain your parents to them, to your son, as if they were child molesters. Same deal, same tactics, same thing. So, thank you so much for your contribution, and thank you for your story. I appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, or a narcissist you'd like to expose, you know what to do with the PayPal and the email link in the description box. I'll try to have the video right back to you. Also available for Skype, private calls, and private videos as well. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon. Bye.